Hey guys, welcome back to the shop. I bet you're wondering why this Arctic Cat's in the garage. Well, there's a funny story about that. I had this thing sold. It was running. I cleaned the carburetor, put the carburetor back on. It started right up, run like a dream. I took it out and run it to get rid of the smoke because from in the last video, if you watched it, I put some Marble Mystery Oil in it to unstick the cylinder and probably put a little too much, like a cupful or so, when a half an ounce would have probably sufficed. But anyway, I cranked most of it out the spark plug hole, but some of it was still in the cylinder, and of course, some probably went in the exhaust valve when I was cranking it. So anyway, it smoked like a freight train. I got rid of the smoke. I drove it and I drove it and I drove it some more, just run it around in the back field. Well, then there was a problem. Had it sold. Guy messaged me on Facebook Marketplace, ready to buy. Great. So I decided I'm going to start it up and drive it around here to the garage. I jumped on, hit the key, and nothing happened. It cranked, but wouldn't go. I checked it and found that the spark, there was none. Where did my spark go? I checked my fuses and the other likely culprits. No spark to be found. So internet to the rescue. I start Googling this thing thinking, I remember this did this before a few times, and that's how it come to be sitting 2 years, was it just refused to start. And I didn't really troubleshoot a lot then. I thought the carburetor was messed up, but no. It's something else. Right in there behind that pull start, there's a big plate. And this big plate's going to have to come off because there's a flywheel. And these are apparently notorious for the magnets coming off the flywheel, which naturally eliminates your spark. Somebody said it's because they get hot. I think it's because they use some glue that biodegrades or something, and over time it just falls apart. But whatever the case, I got to get that cover off, and that is a devil. I'm going to have to drain the oil because when you take that cover out, all the oil that's in it comes rushing out. So I'm going to have to drain the oil first, and I'm still going to have to put some cardboard under it or something because it is going to be a mess. And of course, it is great fun to get to. And we got linkages. We got one here and one there that is probably four-wheel drive, if I had to know. I don't know what that one is. This one is your gear selector. That's right here. That goes to that. That one, a speedometer cable. That's what that is. And that makes sense because there's a screw-in cable right here. A little threaded ring holds it on. So there's a gear there for the speedometer. But anyway, got to watch that stuff as I'm coming off. It's going to be fine. Not. But anyway, that's what we're going to have to do. So, great fun will be had by all. Let me get some tools. And I got to drain the gas tank because the carburetor was all screwed up, and I really thought that's why it wasn't running. As it turns out, I doubt that was it, but it's probably why it was stuck. This fuel valve is still dripping fuel through, even turned off, which means there's a tiny little bit of fuel going to the carburetor all the time, keeping it topped up and then evaporating and leaving gook behind. So yeah, going to be replacing that too. Wonderful. Anyway, good news is the battery did come right back. It will crank it. Let me get some tools and my little stool and start destroying this thing. Well, I guess the first thing we better do is get this fuel line off, because it is with certainty leaking fuel down to the carburetor. Oh yeah, look at her go. And that's turned off. And it's been off. All right, I'm going to go around and put that in the gas can, just drain the gas tank. That's probably the smartest. It's still going drip, drip. All right, so I've disconnected that hose there a second ago. Running right into the neck of the gas tank, which is on my little city stool, so should be fine. And that pipe's jammed in there pretty good because I stuck the clamp in that hole to make sure it stayed. So I'm going to let that drain for about a year. Then we're going to move on to the oil because it's got to go too. I'm still waiting on that gas to drain, so we're going to get that oil out. There's a little drain plug right there. And strangely enough, 13/16. Figure that one out. Everything else is metric. It probably is metric. It's just a miracle that 13/16 was a perfect fit. All right. Now for the part where I get oil all over me. Yay! See, they put these things in here with the bolt straight up and down so that as soon as you pull the bolt out, you get a handful. I think that's intentional. I guess it's to keep your joints lubricated so arthritis don't get you as quick. Remember, this stuff only causes cancer in California. All right, let me struggle back out of here and oil. We'll go from there. You know, that oil looked a lot cleaner on the dipstick. You know, thinking about it here, the most frightening part of this is that mine was intermittent. Some of them just quit outright. I imagine if I fool around with it for a while and, you know, wiggle this, jiggle that, turn the cylinder back and forth a few times, it would accidentally start going again. This is the third time it's lost spark, and I was never what you'd call 100% confident that I found the problem. I think I changed there's some kind of computer unit thing over here, the spark thingy. I changed that once, and I don't think that was the problem. I think it has always been that flywheel losing magnets. It's probably lost more than one now, but we're going to try and do this without removing the muffler. And we're going to try and do it without removing the muffler, because if I remove that muffler, I'm going to have to put a gasket on it, which it probably needs anyway, but it is not the easiest contraption to get out of there. It goes on back there a ways. It's rusty as it can be. I'm afraid I'll break something, honestly. This is a big engine. It's a big four-wheeler. But they still managed to put crap in here so tight together you can hardly get a finger between it. I'll leave the muffler if I can. Well, we're going to have to get my little rechargeable impact that's basically useless and try and take that cover off. Okay, I got my cordless nut breaker. Let's see if we can get these out. Well, that went all right. Boy, was that lucky. Oh, Lord, I just had a terrible thought. What if these aren't all the same length? Well, we're going to find out. I'm just going to leave them in the holes for a little bit. How do I get this rod out of my way? C-clip? E-clip? No? The hell kind of clip is that? Huh. Yeah, I don't know how that works. Huh. Well, let's work around it for a second. I got a lot of bolts to pull regardless. Maybe if I put it all the way up. No. All the way down. No. Okay, I just ain't getting to that one for a little bit. We'll move on to the next one. Loose. Loose. Oh, really? Huh, this one I think I can avoid. Yeah. Good. Now, you know this is too good to last. These bottom ones I'm going to have to get a ratchet on, but whatever makes it faster is the right way. Unless you break something, then it ain't. Suddenly it's not the right way anymore. Can I get to that one? Yep. Oh, shoot, there's some way down there. I can't sneak between, no. Okay, crap. Well, got to the ratchet a little quicker than I hoped. Now this clip, what the hell is going on with that clip? Maybe we'll leave that clip. Let me get a Sharpie. I think I have a plan. Okay, well, as it turns out, I'm going to have to pull this arm off of this anyway. There's no getting around that. And as a consequence, I don't have to pull that clip. But what I do have to do is know where these two work the spline, so they ain't going to go in the exact same place when you go to put it back on unless you make it. So I want to mark right where this split is. There's a split, and it's crushed by this bolt. So I'm just marking right where that split was. And what that allows me to do is put it back in the exact same place it was when I take it off. Now, 10 millimeter I got. But let's do this other thing first. What is that? Some kind of half-assed crazy bolt? I think it's a Torx. Surely not that big. No. One size down because everything else takes this size. Yep. Okay. Put that in our ratchet because I guarantee you that's tight. If it ain't, it should be. We want this on lefty-loosey. Get that in there. This is going to be a juggle and a struggle. Ah, there it is. Gently break it in half. And then break the pieces. Alright, it's coming loose. And that's it. I think it's finger tight now. We test. Yes, we're going to back that out a little ways. With luck. Oh, this is probably got that ring around it that the bolt kind of sets into this little cutout ring around it so that it won't slide off even if the bolt's loose. Of course, if the bolt's out, all bets are off. But I'm betting I have to take this out. And then I'm betting this will just slide right off of there. Look at that. Alright, that's solved. Where's my... I can't stress this enough. You see a lot of guys walking around with their nuts in their hands. You don't want to do that. You need a nut holder. You put your nuts and your bolts in your nut holder, and then you don't walk around and look stupid with your hands full of nuts. Don't walk around with your nuts in your hand. That's today's tip. Alright, I'm going to put this little bit back in here where I might find it again if I'm lucky. We're going to have problems, but clearance is going to be an issue. I'll try to get on here. Yeah, right. Turn the socket a little bit. These are 8-point or 6-point. What is it? 6 probably. Yeah, 6-point, not 8-point. What am I thinking? And as a consequence, you gotta have them in just the right spot or they won't even go on. I'm gonna break a knuckle like this. Oh, them are tight too. Oh, I got lucky there. It didn't pop loose and skin my knuckle. Okay, we got one. How in the world am I gonna get to that one? You'd need a 6-inch extension. I might do it with this 4 if I can get in that hole. There's a little gap there. I might be able. This thing's a pain in the ass. All right. This whole four-wheeler, this is a beast. Don't get me wrong. But they did some stupid things when they built this. A flywheel that the magnets fall off of. That you have to go behind this cover, which, joins up with the oil. That was stupid. Is there one there where I can't see? Of course, there's always one where you can't see. Why the hell would they put one only where you can see? That'd just be stupid. All right, I think I'm on it. Yeah, it's tight. Hey, I went FedEx. He didn't bring me nothing. Okay, this one. Did I get to this one? I think I did. Yeah. All right. Now there's one more bolt. It's hiding back here. I don't know. I'm going to take you out of the mount for a second. Right here. He's a long one. Or so the internet says. That's right. I get some of my information off the internet. I also watch YouTube. I encourage you to watch YouTube. You can watch my channel. You can watch other channels. I don't know, I don't fix everything. I was going to say I don't know everything, but that's a lie. But anyway, yeah, you got to get your information where you can and double down on it. Don't just get it all from one source, except for me. Sometimes I don't have it, so if I don't have it, get it from somebody else. But get it. YouTube's a great thing when it's used properly. And this, I feel, is one of the better uses for YouTube. Yeah, there it is. Different links. Just look at this crap. Line them up and, oh, different links. I was afraid of that. Okay. Well, that's why I was putting them back in the hole that they came out of, because I don't want to figure that out. I expect I could figure that out pretty easily. I'm going to get them all completely loose and just sitting in the holes. I'm going to pull this big one down here last. It's holding the cover on, which is keeping me from dripping and leaking everywhere, which is, I guess, a good thing. But, all right. I'm going to go around these and loosen all these by hand. I'm going to get a piece of cardboard and make a half-hearted attempt at a picture of this cover and then punch these through it so that I kind of know where they came from. That's an old trick from before some of you were born, and probably some of you were right there when it happened. So I will be back in a second. All right, so I'm going to shortcut a little. I went around looking at these bolts, and almost all of them are the short bolts. This is a long one, and there's at least one other long one. Instead of getting a piece of cardboard, drawing a picture of this, poking holes in it, that's the right way. But since there's only a couple, I'm going to take my Sharpie, and I'm going to put a little mark by the couple of long bolts so I know where they go, and everything else is a short bolt, problem solved. I took the speedometer cable off. Man, that thing's stiff. I can't believe it still works. And that oil line up top goes to the block. Don't have to worry about him. But this one goes to this cover. And if I don't drain him, I'm going to wish I did. So I've got myself a nice cottage cheese container down there. And I'm just going to pull this hose off, direct it at that cottage cheese container, and let it pee itself silly until it's done. And I don't know. I got another little problem I'm thinking about here. Let me get you clamped up in the stand a little better. I don't know. I took the speedometer cable off, but I don't know how much good's there. I don't know if this needs unbolted from it. It may, just for clearance. This is welded on. This foot plate, and it's all part of the frame. There is no just unbolting it. There's a big old honking weld there. Ain't no way that's coming off easy. In fact, I don't think it's coming off at all. This is not a water-cooled engine. This is an, oh, you know, I can't reach in there. Yeah, I got a fender in my way. Ooh, this is gonna be messy right here. But you gotta do what you gotta do. I don't know if that's gonna come off of there either. Not easily. I'm going to block your view. There ain't nothing I can do about it. I'll take this watch off before I shatter it too, because I got to get in here and kind of pull both at once. I don't like doing it that way. What is stopping you? There just ain't room to work there. I want to grab the... Oh. It is almost off. It's so close. Oh yeah. Yeah, it's gonna come off. It's almost there. Well, I don't see nothing running out. Oh, I spoke too soon. There's the oil. Now, if you'd just be good enough to drain in a place that goes in that bucket. That'd be lovely. And it is, kind of. All 3 drops of it. Looks like there just wasn't a whole lot in there. It probably drains back into the engine when you turn it off. This is part of the oil cooler, which, I'm not going to knock it too much. It works. It keeps it moderately cool. I have had the temperature light come on, though, which is kind of funny. It's air cooled. I was moving, but I wasn't moving enough. Now, that oil cooler has a fan. This is not a water-cooled four-wheeler. But when you see that big radiator-looking thing up there, you get to thinking, water-cooled? No. Thank God it ain't. And I say that because water-cooled should be a good thing. And in most cases, it is. But in small engines, it's just a head leak waiting to happen. It seems like I've had more trouble with water-cooled engines. I'd much rather have a water-cooled engine than a Volkswagen, unless it was in a dune buggy. Then all of a sudden, the air cooling makes more sense. Less crap to screw up. Okay, you're short. You're short. You're long. Magic marker. And he's marked. You are short. Put the magic marker up. You are short. All the same so far. You are short. You are short. You are long. So get the magic marker. Make a little mark for him. Just a little one. Don't take a lot. Good. Put these in my nut bucket because you don't want to be standing around holding your nuts. This is short. This is short. This is short. This is short. All shorts, yes. If I can reach this one. I already had it out once. This is short. Nut bucket. I got one more that is in a place I'm never gonna reach. Oh yeah, I am. What do you know? I guess taking them other ones out left me with some room. Come on, you slow-threaded. Man, that's crunchy. It's like all of them got a little corrosion on them from the aluminum, I assume. Look, this one's plumb freaking rusty. But he's short. Okay. That is all of those. Now I'm going to crack this big sucker loose. No, I'm not. I'm going to take this because I know this has to come off before that cover will slide off the crank. I'm really worried about that. I wonder if I should. See, I don't know what's going on behind there. I don't know if that's got a gear trap that's just going to drop down in the case when I pull that off. I just don't know. This obviously has to come out far enough to get off of this. It obviously has to come out far enough to get off of this. These two, well, that's a shaft, and that's, I guess, a crankshaft, so it's a shaft too. This, I don't think, has a shaft. A little bit of oil right there on that speedometer cable contraption. What's the worst that can happen? Is there 3 bolts or 2? Feels like there's 2. One there. One on each side. Against my better judgment tells me never take a thing off you don't have to. But I got a hunch I have to. Part of me hopes I'm wrong, but then again, clearance. I'm going to need it, and that thing's going to hit this running board immediately. Okay, if I can get that, there's going to be oil pour out of that, I suspect. I've drained the crankcase, but I just think there's going to be more oil. Call it a hunch. That one's kind of crunchy, too. It's not just coming easy. Let me see if I can get the extension to it through this gap. That'd be the better way if I can. Can I do that? Yeah, sort of. What a place for a swivel that would have been. And this one, he's already kind of loose, but this one's a hanger on. It just doesn't want to loosen up. Yeah, he's going to be a problem. This one I think is finger tight. Let me try it. Yeah, no. I'll be back. I'm going to get them bolts out. It's going to take a while. Now, let's play a game called How You're Supposed to Do a Thing versus How I Do a Thing. There is probably a tool that's meant to hold this. I don't have that. What I do have is a nice solid 1/2-inch metal rod. And I've got a socket on this. I think it's going to be left-handed thread. And I say that because when you pull the rope, it turns this piece of metal that way. If that was also the way you loosen the bolt, that'd be a problem. So we're going to tighten it to loosen it, essentially. So I get my rod tight. Let's see if that does it. It's not cracking loose. Is it possible it goes the other way, or is it possible it's too tight? Well, let's try the other direction. So now we got to move the rod. So what I'm going to do is take the pressure off that rod a little bit. We're going to put that rod in a different place, like, say, here. Okay. That's going to fight with me a little bit. Well, maybe we'll hold it with the other hand. All right, so now we're turning it the direction it would turn if it was regular, not left-handed. I'm going to try and get rid of this extension and see if I can do that. Yeah, barely, but I can. All right. Hold this rod and see if it unscrews the proper direction. It's tight. And I really don't know. And there ain't enough threads to really tell, I don't think. Oh, there's one thread. That's all I need. It's bigger this way. It gets tighter this way. So it does go in the correct direction. Lefty-loosey takes it off. Okay. Wouldn't have guessed that one. So, means I got to find something up here to blockade this against. Preferably not the muffler. Is there some strong metal there? Yeah. I have to turn the engine to get myself in a spot to use it. Okay. Well, if I'm right, yep, that did it. There she is. So what I just did was took my fingernail. If you have fingernails, if you don't, well, that's what we like to call a setback. And I stuck it in the one thread that was sticking out and determined which way it pinched my fingernail. If it pinches my fingernail going to the right, you tighten it to the right. If it pinches my fingernail going to the left, you tighten it to the left, backwards. Because obviously those threads, as they spiral in, so that you would turn it right to tighten it, will get tighter and tighter till you're right up against the nut, and then it's got your fingernail. Anyway, there it is, left-handed. There was just barely a thread to find that knowledge out. Probably could have Googled that. Spent an hour that I could be taking this apart with. But I kind of figured it out the hard way. Okay. The starting ring should come off of there pretty easy. Watch me be wrong. But I think it should. What holds you? That's a good question. I don't think it's much. I don't think there's much at all holding this. I think it's probably splined or something. I don't want to put the power of the ape on it. Extension fit in there? Yeah, not that that helps me a lot. It doesn't seem to be taking it off. Okay, this is one of those things I don't know. I would think that's splined, and I would think it would just come off. But it could be, surely not, it could be that this stays on. Let me see if it comes loose that way. Just gently. I'm not giving it the strength of the ape here. Just gently leaning on it just a little bit. See if it walks off of there. I see movement. Very little movement. Like something you could do with a screwdriver or two. It's got a little wiggle right there, and that's not the shaft wiggling, which makes me think there just ain't a position to do what I was hoping to do. Can't split this enough to... Not really, no. And I don't want to scar that up much. Wouldn't really hurt anything, but I don't like screwing things up any more than I have to. Can't get in there. I feel like this is a job for a puller. I believe that this is splined. It appears like it might be. And I believe you put your puller point in there and you just grab this and hope for the best and gently ease it right off of that shaft. That's what I believe. Let me find a puller and see if we can do that. So a funny thing happened. I went and got my puller. I put it on this gizmo, and like I thought, it was splined. And just as I get it on there, I'm wiggling it around to get the little screw down bolt there tight by hand before I go get a wrench. And this thing, you just had to have your mouth held right because it just fell off. Okay, so slides right off without a tool. What's left? Well, it looks like this big bolt right here. When I say big, it ain't really that big, but it's bigger than the rest. And it looks like it's smaller than that. Probably a 12, maybe a 13. I guess we'll find out. Let me run over here and get a 12 or a 13. I kind of wish I had the camera running when I was putting that on because it was kind of funny. Did not expect that. I'll bring a 13 and a 12. More evidence that that drain plug is probably metric, even if 13/16 is perfect. Let's see here. We'll try 12, I guess, first. 12 it is. Okay, didn't need a 13. This is the long one. Oh, and it's pretty snug. Man, it turned a little, and there it turned a little more. There it goes. Woo. That baby's torqued. I did take the drive out for the speedometer. Let me see, where did I put it? Right here. So the speedometer drive just has a flat doodad there that goes into a gear drive in there. And it's just a gearbox. You turn this and it right angles it to that. So when you turn here, that thing goes around and around. Nothing to that. It's a good solid part. Pity they couldn't make the flywheel that way. All right. Get this big honking bolt out. Long bolt. It's not really huge or anything, but compared to the others, it's gigantic. I try the other hand for a while. Oh yeah, it just keeps coming. That's what was in there. That looks like Loctite. That explains a few things. Now this cover should come right off. And when I say come right off, I mean with some gentle persuasion. It has some heavy bosses there, almost like a pry point, but I don't know that I can get anything in there to actually pry on it. I ain't prying on the muffler if I can get away with it. I can't really get to it with a mallet. Let me get up here where I can see. Yeah, I can't do that. And I don't really want to pry on the muffler. Is there something? No bosses over here. There's only one boss right there. Wonder if I could tap that from the other side. There's a possibility. Let me go around the other side. There might be a way I can slip this in here and get it to that boss. That's a sound we look for. It's loose-ish. Now, this is the time when you stop and you double check that you haven't forgotten a bolt. This little spigot is screwed into the cover, but I don't think it's holding anything. We got the dipstick. I can't believe it would hold anything. I believe I'm being held by this shaft up here. So no bolts there. Okay, so it's moving there. How do you get it to move over here? Nothing to grab, nothing to hold on to. Don't want to get behind it with a screwdriver and mar up the seal. Well, mar up the surface the seal goes on. I don't much care about the seal. We're going to replace that. This is an oil seal held on by 3 screws. There's hardly a chance that's holding anything. So, bang it some more, I guess. It's wiggly. There are no bolts, no. Okay. I'm going to bang it some more. It seems counterproductive. I would think I had banged enough, but if at first you don't succeed, bang her again. What is this hose? Where does that go and what is it? That's probably not a hose. I bet that's wiring. Going through the case? Yeah. I guess that makes sense. All right, I see I'm going to have a struggle. So I guess I may have to bring you back. Yeah, there's going to be like locating dowels or something. Well, that felt like movement. What the hell? What could possibly? There are no more bolts. So what could be holding me? This doesn't do anything, I don't think. And I'm very afraid of taking that off without knowing what it does. Not to mention, that part actually moves. Oh no. There's no way to get a hold of that. All right, I'll stand by. I'll bring you back. Well, I got the cover loose. That was great fun. And there's this cord for the magneto, I'm sure. That is not the easiest thing to get unplugged, let me tell you. So now that I've got it loose, let's get it out of there. good luck. This is a tight fit, but there it is. Okay, we got a gear that just fell out of somewhere. Great. I do not know where that goes. If I had to guess, I'd say right there. Okay. There's a stator. Strangely enough, the magnets appear to be intact. That's not your problem. Crankshaft sensor, maybe? It's my next best guess. Alright, so I've pushed and wiggled on these magnets in about every direction I can think of. And none of them are coming out. But I've come to a decision. Even though that's not what's wrong with it, that will be what's wrong with it at some point in the future, and I've already got the cover off. It's kind of a preemptive strike on a problem that hasn't occurred yet, if nothing else. Since the cover's already off, since I'm going to have to put another gasket on it, because the gasket is in pieces, I'm just going to go ahead and change that flywheel. And I'm going to go ahead, since I'm in here, and change the, what is it called, stator, and the little trigger sensor, whatever this doodad is called here. There's no reason not to, honestly. Might just as well. So we're going to swap that stuff out. And the coil, which is up in a hole here where you can't see at the moment. I am also going to take these plugs. I've already unplugged, of course, there's 2 plugs there. But I'm also going to unplug the, I don't know, the internet's calling it an ECM. I figured it was just a CDI box, but surely it doesn't have a computer of any kind. But whichever the case, gonna take that off, clean the points on it, you know, the connections, and put it back together. This is what we like to call in the repair world the parts cannon. We're just going to start shooting at it because what options do we have really? The knowledge to track down the problem with this sort of thing is not as available as it should be. It can be had. You can find it and download it and pour through the schematics. And I know how to read a schematic. And usually they'll have, you know, how much voltage you should get here and there, how many ohms a certain part should be. But that usually requires the technical manual that you would be paying for. Probably enough and enough weight while I slowly go through all this stuff. It would be faster to replace the cheaper parts. The flywheel, the stator, and sensor, and of course the joining wires there, all one chunk, cost $111 on eBay. And the amount of time I would spend trying to troubleshoot this, even if those things aren't bad, we know this is going to be at some point. So it's got to go. We're kicking it out. If we're kicking it out and the kit comes with that, the stator, the trigger sensor, whatever that doodad's called, I think it's a trigger, and the gasket for $111, might as well. So we're going to go ahead and swap that out. We're going to go ahead and swap out the coil, even though it's unlikely the coil's bad. A new coil isn't going to hurt it. And we're going to start clean. Oh, and it might even come with a voltage regulator. That feller's hiding right there. He's the guy with the fins down here in the hole. May or may not be able to see him. But I'm reasonably confident he's okay. But it's got to go too, because it's got a new one coming. So we're just going to change the whole thing as a unit and then clean up whatever connections we can find. And hopefully we get somewhere there. I took the gears and things that came out with the cover and put them in their respective spots where they belong. And there's the shifter. I had there's a dot here to line up where it's supposed to be, so that was fairly simple. But I had marked it, if you recall, with a magic marker just in case. And when I reached this linkage down there to hook up to it, since it can only be in one place in the case, That also agreed with the dot that I found on that, so it's all good. Anyway, that's what we're going to do. We're going to clean the old gasket off of this with a razor blade, which I doubt you really need to see. And when the parts come, we're going to start reassembling this thing with new parts. Pulling this sucker's going to be a chore. I've got a special puller coming, and it looks like you really do need the special puller, and that's just stupid. For whatever reason. And why would you put magnets in an oil bath that are glued on? Again, there were no geniuses on board when they designed this thing. Also, this engine is used in Suzuki's. I think this is probably a Suzuki motor that Arctic Cat is buying or was buying. That explains a great many things. Anyway, that's where we're going from here. So I'll be back when our parts come. I'll have cleaned this junk off, and we'll just pick up where we left off. All right, it's been a few days, and when I left off, I had removed this cover and discovered that the flywheel, the magnets, had not fallen off, which is a very common and probably the most common reason spark goes awry on these. And here is the old flywheel. If I get good and close, you can see there's individual magnets. They've glued them on, and then they sink them promptly in a oil bath, which I can't even guess why that's an act of genius, but there you have it. There's a big gap between the magnets here, but I think that's on purpose. Though, to be honest, these are really close together. There's a lot here I don't understand. As you got a gap, and then a narrow gap, and then a touching gap, and then, they're not evenly spaced at all. I wonder if these have fallen off and someone has glued them back on themselves. I know that this crankcase has been full of gasoline. So anyway, I ordered a kit. One of the things that came in that kit is the new improved flywheel. Now, the new improved flywheel, you don't see the magnets. That's because there's a sheet metal piece mashed in here. It's an interference fit. I don't think you'd be able to take it out easily. I think it's in there to stay. But what it does is it kind of helps keep the magnets where they belong, keeps the oil away from them somewhat. It ain't going to keep it all out, but it should keep most of it out. And anyway, these magnets will be put where they belong, and those ain't. Those are all over the map, and I really believe that someone has epoxied them back into place poorly. That's how it looks. They're all over the place. I just don't believe they would normally be that way. This raised piece of metal here is what trips the trigger. I'll show you that in a minute. There's rust on this flywheel from having gas in it. I don't know if I can... Yeah, I'm not... Well, I might turn it a little. No, probably not very much. Anyway, there's rust over on this side. I'll show you when I take it off. Now, to remove that flywheel, you got to have a special tool, which I have. Idiotic as it seems, they just had to make this thing in such a way it requires a special tool. They couldn't just make it normal. While I've got the cover off and things out of the way, I'm probably going to pull that fuel filter or oil filter. I have another oil filter for it. I got a new gasket. It all come with the kit. And of course, they folded that gasket right up. So the gasket's a little kinkier than I like. It's got a little damage right there, I assume from shipping because it's a brand new gasket. But this little crack right here isn't going to hurt anything because it's down in there a ways. I'm not even really sure why that gasket extends that far. A bolt just goes through there. It could be just so they could plane it flat on this side and everything be on the same level. And for that to work, there had to be a bit of a spacer, and the gasket is the required spacer. I'm not even sure which way this goes, but I'll figure it out. Maybe. I'm going to bet my life on it. But anyhow, so what we're going to do first, I've cleaned this with brake clean. I took all of the gasket off, and then I sprayed it with brake clean, get the oil off. We're going to use a little bit of, even though it's not required, I'm sure, I'm going to use a little bit of the right stuff and stick that gasket down on the engine. The reason I'm sticking it to the engine and not this is this rubber plug fits down in there, and it's necessarily a little springy. It sticks up. I can't put the gasket on this piece. This piece has to smash against the gasket. But anyway, I got a new charging coil here, a new trigger. Comes with it. You don't just buy this trigger. I guess you could probably cut and splice one in there if you could get it, but I don't believe the trigger's sold separately. It's molded into this plug. You're not getting it through and out of there, I don't believe. That appears to be pretty well stuck. The plugs fit. The size appears to be the same. So we're just going to swap that out. Is this bad? Who knows? This thing's soaking in gasoline. I couldn't have been good for it. I don't know that it would hurt this unless it dissolved some of the lacquer, but I never had any indication of charging problems. But regardless, it's going to go. There's some blackening here that I don't know what is. I don't know if I can get close enough for you to see that, but there is some very dark in that one spot. But I don't know that it's burnt. It could just be oil soaked. Anyway, whatever the case, we're changing it. So that's going to be our next project, is removal and replacement of this coil and that sensor. And of course it's bolted down. This is a little keeper to keep the wires out of the way. This is where the sensor bolts down, and below it there's a little keeper thing to keep the wires out of the way. Last thing you want is them getting tangled up in something. And I cleaned it up as best I can, so I guess I can't stall no more. I have to start taking that thing apart. Ugh. Alright, we got quite a few little bolts to pop loose. Let's hope they ain't Loctited in with red Loctite or something. Although, that's how it's feeling. It came loose and it's not tight in the hole after, so maybe not. These it's loose, yeah, and then this little keeper. Okay, now what would be beneficial now, I did not plan ahead, as you can tell, would be a little socket driver. Let me look in my tools. There we go. This would be a lot easier. Alright, I'm just going to take the screws out first. Bolts, whatever they are, I guess they're bolts. Hopefully they're all the same length. So far so good. Yep. Then we got the sensor, which I do not believe is not adjustable, so there's no witness marks to keep track of. It goes straight in the hole. Only goes one place, only goes one way. Okay, now those two and one more right here, this little keeper. That's loose enough, it'll just come right out. And I'm going to keep it with the bolt so that we don't have to figure out which one was where, although these three will probably be identical. Yeah, they are. Alright, that's loose. That's loose. There's a little underneath here. This guy, he's what held the wires in place. This should just lift out. There shouldn't be anything in the world holding it. It just comes right out. Now I need my rag because that is still kind of oily, even after I sprayed it with brake clean. A lot of places for oil to hide in there. Now our new one. Oil all over the place here. I did not spray that piece of gasket. I thought I got all that. No, I didn't. There's another piece. Another piece. It's unending. I use the rag to pick that up. Just touch it. It should come right out of there. Okay. And we got a little oil around the edge here that isn't probably going to matter at all. All right, so we get our new piece. Our new piece is going to go right here. Just drop right in. That'll squeeze down in this little hole that the wires go in right there. Need to line them holes up. That's easy enough. Let's get our bolts. There it is. That's one. Should be one here. Should be one here. Good. I almost wonder if I shouldn't have went another way, but here's the problem. I got all that extra wire. This one, wire's wrapped around. Let me look. Take these bolts out. Let me look how this one is. I mean, I could turn it like, maybe not. No, there's a gap that's meant to go right there. That's where it has to go. So we'll quit fooling with that. Where was that hole? Right there. Okay, so that's where it goes. There's no getting out of it. It only goes one way. Part of me is relieved by that. Part of me is not. And that's mostly because I'd very much like to get rid of some of that extra wire. There's nowhere for it to go. And nothing I can do about it. I'm just barely hand tightening these. They're snug, but I'm not putting the final torque on them because I very well may be taking them right back out. Now, if I put this here, like it shows, or should be, I might even squeeze a little more wire through there. Not much. About as far as I can go with that plan. All right, then this would go here. And kind of force down on that wire. And this, the little nub on that sensor, goes forward like so. And down in there. Well, forward like so and up, I guess. And look at this. Yeah, it'd have to go up. Look at this. Yeah, it'd have to go up. So it would have to go like this, presumably. Yeah, there's no other way it'll go. Just like that, and then you get a couple of bolts. These are the two I took out of those holes. Should be a little bit of fight. That wire is a bit of an interference fit, which probably is on purpose to keep it out of the way. Yeah, that did start, amazingly. Just going to run this down. Now, I got all this wire. This is the plug it goes, and look at the old one, yeah, just exactly like that, right in this hole here, and gets smashed down. I got all this, which I guess I can stuff in there, but I got one more keeper. Goes here. You stuff that wire down in this hole like this. I guess you stuff that wire down in there like that. That'll work. Put this right across that hole. And basically, the point of that is just to keep the wire under control. If you can get the stupid thread started. Okay, that's in. Now, does that go anywhere specific? Right there, I guess. That's what would stop it. I saw that little peg right here. There's a little tit sticking up, and I thought, oh, well, that'll go in that hole. It didn't. It stops this from turning when you tighten it, I assume. Okay, so that's in. That's snug. That's snug. This is tucked out of the way, and it looks like it'll stay that way. Certainly hope so, because there ain't much else I can do with it. There ain't nowhere else for me to put it. I could jam it down in the hole, if it will let me. Let me take this keeper off. Look again and see if I can jam that down in that hole, because that would be even better. I worry that this might come sneaking out of there and get in a gear or something. There's gears all over the place in there. Take this little keeper out. Pull this plug. I'm going to put a little schmoo on that anyway. Would that fit down in here? Maybe. Some of it will, most of it. That's better. I like that better. Now you might be asking yourself why I'm changing this without knowing if it's good or bad. And the answer is the number one cause of loss of spark in these Arctic cats is those magnets falling off, and it's clear they have fallen off once before. According to the internet, you can try to glue them back on, but that's kind of a half-assed repair, and it's going to quit again. So, the ideal situation is replace the flywheel with the updated flywheel that the magnets don't fall off of. At least they don't fall out and grind something up, if nothing else. We're going to go ahead and put the final tighten on those. That appears to be how I want it. I'm going to schmoo that before I stab it in there. I'm just sticking it, and I've already brake cleaned that, so I'm not getting it all oily, at least I don't think. That feels good. 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 You don't want them too tight. You want to strip it. It's aluminum. But you want it pretty darn snug, because the last thing you want is any of this falling off and going through the gears. All right, that's got that. And now we're going to have to move on to the flywheel. What great fun that is. This kit came with a voltage regulator that I have no reason to believe is bad. And because I have no reason to believe it's bad, I don't feel like I have a reason to change it. It also feels like it's made out of air, which I haven't touched the other one. And I don't believe I'm going to fool with that. I did get a coil. It's like 12 bucks because why not? It's a spark problem. And if you're going to fire the parts cannon at it, you might as well use, the full magazine. No sense just lobbing one round and quitting. So, another speck of crap. This is handled. We're going to move on to the flywheel, and we got a tool for that. I was going to show you that. Look at this ridiculous thing, as big as a teacup. And you got this doodad screws into here. Then this is a saddle. So you screw this on, get him in there, probably nearly all the way, just so. Okay, this goes against there, and this screws onto the shaft. And so basically you're pushing on the shaft and with this piece because of this through tightening, and you're pulling on the flywheel with this screws on the outside of the flywheel. It's kind of ridiculous. A lot of wasted effort and a tool that wasn't necessary if they just designed it better. But anyhow, we'll get to that here in just a minute. All right, to take this flywheel off first, we got to take this nut off. We already pulled one nut that held the cogs for the pull start. Now, this is different though. This is the one that holds it on the engine. We're going to be using my Chicago Electric Harbor Freight electric impact. I would laugh at this thing, but it's actually pretty good. What I don't like is that this wire keeper right here, or I assume that's what that is. Yeah, it doesn't do anything. It doesn't keep your socket on at all. It's kind of useless. That's sad. Let's see if I can get this plugged in. And rat-a-tat. And I checked earlier with my fingernail to see which direction those threads were, because the last thing I wanted was a catastrophe. And, as you can see, I guessed correctly. All right, we need to put that where we won't lose it. I'll just set it up on the fender. This is on there. It don't just come off. You got to have that stupid tool. Let me go grab the stupid tool, which fortuitously is just right over here. Now, prepare to be amazed, which is probably the opposite of what's about to happen. This goes here. It threads on, and then it stops, and it leaves a little gap. It looks like it's a little over 1/4 of an inch. Then you get this contraption. I'm going to take this and take the doodad out of it that I just threaded in it a little bit ago. And the threading we will go. Now, you may have noticed there's some more bolts. There's bolts all around here. Those are holding the one-way bearing thing for the starter. Your starter is up here. And it turns this little doodad. And that turns this little doodad, which drives this gear, which cranks the engine. And that gear there you'd think would be more out, but okay, that's fine. Anyway, this threads on the outside of this shaft. There's threads on that. So you just start waltzing her on all the way in till she stops. Now, that thing we put on first gives this a flat thing to push on, and it only moves 1/4 of an inch. And you got to take all this crap apart to get the flywheel off. You're not just coming off with the flywheel. Kind of funny how that works. But it captures the flywheel on there. So it ain't coming off. And we're threading. And we're still threading. One eternity later. There, we're bottoming out now. Okay, that's where we want to be. Now, we need a socket to fit that. I'm sure it's metric, because why wouldn't it be metric? Everything else is metric on this thing. Let me look. I'm going to estimate this size. I estimated too large. I'm going to estimate the next one down. Boom. Okay, now, if I turn that in the righty-tighty direction, it should extract the flywheel. If I can do that without crashing the camera. Wouldn't bet my life on that. May have to move the camera a little bit. Let me scoot you around. Right there. Okay. Plugged in. We're going to want forward, which is the bottom part of the trigger. Kind of funny how that works. Bada boom. Okay. We're going to unthread this piece. Easy does it. Now we got this piece. And you see where that post here inside was bearing down on this piece, which saves that piece. This whole shebang is about to come off of here, like it or not. That's the part I want right there. Now, this is your one-way bearing right here. It is bolted on with those big Allen bolts that I have to remove and transfer to the other flywheel. This gear, I don't feel like I need to screw with it. This key, I don't need to screw that either. We're just leaving that stuff alone. All right, I'll be back. So here's a funny thing. I was wrong, but I was right. When I pulled this flywheel out, in fact, even before, I went around it and I pulled on these magnets trying to get them to come out. And they come out now. Why are they coming out now? Well, here's the thing. This flywheel has been machined, and the machining marks, the grooves, are still in it. When they epoxied these magnets in, the epoxy filled the gaps in the machining grooves to make it a perfect fit. Not intentionally, the idea is to glue them in, but when they get loose, those grooves exist in the magnets. And so here's one that will not budge right here. It is still bonded on, maybe. And as I go around, well, there's one that moves. Why does it move now and it didn't move then? This is in an oil bath. That oil filled what minute gaps there were between the machine finish and the epoxy. You can kind of make it out. You can feel it with your fingernail. It's almost like dragging your fingernail across an old vinyl record. You can feel the little buzz, buzz, buzz when you drag your fingernail across that. The oil that I mostly cleaned off was creating a situation where this felt like it was bonded in there, and it wasn't. All the magnets aren't loose, but what should have given it away, and if you missed it, well, you're just as blind as I am, these magnets were all kind of bunched up. The gaps were narrow instead of even all the way around. I knew that the gaps were supposed to be even all the way around. I knew that, but some reason it didn't click in my head. So here's one. I pulled on that magnet and it comes out now, but it actually resisted quite a bit. The only thing that got that magnet out of there is the fact that I knew it would come out if I pulled harder. Now, you should not be able to pull epoxied end magnets out by hand. Obviously, this was, after all, the problem. And I thought it wasn't. Now, I pulled and pulled on these two magnets here seem to appear to be well bonded. They're not coming out. But 4 of them were on tour inside there. These are strong magnets. They're not super strong, but they're pretty strong. Anyway, that flywheel is now useless. I I tried to record this, but with a GoPro, sometimes you hit the power button and instead of turning on the power, you switch gears. So it was on photo mode. So I had a nice photo of my finger or something instead of recording what was going on. But I did put the other flywheel on. I've put the one-way gear on here. I'll tell you something else. It's my opinion that if you can, you should remove these bolts and leave the one-way gear on there. It has some things that look like roller bearings, but they're not. They're more like little roller fingers that grab so that it will turn in one direction and one direction only, and it'll slide going the other way. And I didn't lose any of them out of there, but it was kind of like needle bearings without a good cage. I was afraid that they were going to fall out when I had it off of this shaft, and I was being very delicate with it when I probably wouldn't have had to be if I had just took this nut off, cracked this flywheel loose without taking it off, removed these screws, and then kind of poke that thing with a screwdriver or something as I removed this so that it stayed in there. Then, of course, you would have to line it all back up. That's not as hard as it sounds. And maybe removing the whole thing as a unit is the intended way. I don't know. That one-way bearing made me nervous. It didn't have any problem, but it still made me nervous. So now that this flywheel is back on and torqued to a couple of ugga-duggas, I'm going to have to put the right stuff on this incredibly thin. Let me see if I can get in here where you can see. This surface is thin. And I have a gasket that fits now. The one they sent with it was wrong, probably my fault. I got the correct part number for this. I got the correct part number for the coil and, the stator and the sensor and blah, blah, blah there. But I believe these were for an automatic, this kit. And so the gasket that I was sent was for a slightly different stator cover. Believe that was my fault. It looks right at a glance, but then when you try to line it up, that's not going to happen. It just, I can't keep that thing straight to save my life. It is wrong. And if I turn it the other way, it is also wrong. Doesn't fit that way either. It's just not right. So this one appears to be right, but they've shrink wrapped it. I hope to God that's not stuck. I hope that just comes out. This plastic looks like some kind of sticky shrink wrap, as long as it ain't sticky on the paper and as long as it ain't sticky on this. But I wonder how they bonded that on there without sticking it to the gasket. I'm sure they have a way, because that would be kind of foolish. So I'm sure that's fine. Anyhow, I'm going to get this gasket out of here, try and figure out how I'm going to get some of the right stuff. On this cover is easy because it's out where I can get it. It too is fairly narrow. That's a fairly thin surface to be trying to put that on. I'm going to goop this. This is the socket where this rubber seal goes in to let the wires out of the case. Definitely going to put some goop on that because my level of faith in that is pretty low. Although it's at the top where you would be less likely to have an oil leak anyway, I got to pay special attention to the bottom. This makes up part of the oil sump, and as a consequence, the bottom portion of this, at a minimum, needs to be well and truly sealed. It'd be nice if the top was too. I don't want anything getting in there. I don't want anything getting out of there. There's only one place anything should get out of there. There's a crankcase vent somewhere. So if anything gets in or out of the engine, it needs to be through there, and it should be just fumes. But anyway, I'm going to put the goop to this down here, and because it takes a while and because I have to hurry, I'm only going to film some of that. Probably film it after I've put the goop on and the gasket is stuck to the crankcase, and I've got goop on this, and then I'll maybe record sticking that on there. It's fairly simple, but it's important to me to get this on video if I can, but it's more important to me not to have to do this 2-3 times. This has to work, and it has to be right, because I'm going to sell this. This is my personal four-wheeler, and when I sell it, just like I sell everything else, I want to be able to stand behind it. I never want to see this four-wheeler again. I don't want to call in a week, hey, this thing exploded. I want this thing gone, and that's that. Never see it again. That's always my goal. Well, let me get situated here, start gooping this up. It's too cold to open the garage door. I don't know how I'm going to get more light in here. But I need a little more light to see what I'm doing with that goop so as not to make a big mess. Anyway, I'll be back in a minute. Oh my goodness. I got that cover back on. What a chore that was. This, I don't know, foot guard, whatever, something here to keep your feet out of the engine, I guess. I don't know what that's for. Dead square in the way of this oil fill. And then over here, we've got this spigot, which I could have taken off, but it's probably got a gasket, and I really didn't want to fool with anything I didn't have to. That thing is getting hung up in this, and behind it is metal, so it isn't like you're just going to take that off easy. Big pain in the butt all the way around. I've got these tightened down by hand gently with a nut driver, and they're just where they touch. I'm going to wait for that right stuff, this junk, to firm up just a little. Supposed to give it, an hour, a little over. And then you can go ahead and torque it down. The idea being that it dries somewhat and turns into a gasket. I don't know that that's necessary. Any ooze that I got is very minimal because I put a very minimal amount. I painted on with my fingers, so my hands are going to be black as the ace of spades forever. There's nothing I can do about it. It's going to take a week or two for that stuff to go away. There is probably a solvent that'll cut that. I doubt that I possess it. It is really, really good stuff, and it really sticks to just about anything you put it on. But I am going to wipe up some of this that sticks out a little just to give it a more professional look. It's absolutely not necessary for the running or seal. It'll run just as good with goop on it, and it'll seal just as good. But I like to clean it up some. All right. And this rag is slightly oily, which seems to be picking it up and glossing it over good enough that you don't really notice it. All right. So we're going to let that dry. I guess I better tighten this one. So we got a little bit more to do, but I don't see the socket that fits that. And run it in by hand a little. This is the big bolt, goes in the middle. The rest of them were pretty easy. And like I say, I'm not tightening these. I'm just going to use the end of this crescent wrench to snug it a little bit by hand, if I can even get in there with that. That's not the ideal tool for the job. There we go. Yeah, okay, I turned a little end on. That's good enough. I will tighten that later. I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to take my diseased looking black hand here. Oh man, the other one too. I'm going out to eat in 2 days. I hope it comes off before then, but I ain't holding my breath. Daughter's birthday, we're taking her out to dinner. Well, I'm going to let this rest for a minute. I'll be back. You're going to find this hard to believe, but I searched the internet, and this is supposed to be 9 foot-pounds to tighten these little bolts, and there was no conversion rate for Ugga-Duggas. I looked everywhere. So what we're going to have to do is use a torque wrench. Old school. All right, so what we're going to do here is I've got the finest of Harbor Freight torque wrenches, which is amply good enough for this. This is not, in fact, the Space Shuttle. And we're going to tighten them in as crisscross a pattern as the machine will allow. And that'll mostly be wild guesses because there's a lot of bolts and they're hard to see. I'm just going to make sure I got them all. So I've already tightened these a ways, just a little, and I'm going to tighten them just a little more. And this is going to get obnoxious before it's over because clearance is a real thing. Now, I think this one would be the opposite of that one. And if I'm wrong, it's not going to matter. But getting it on there with this oil fill going to be a challenge. Getting it on there with or without the oil fill might be a challenge. I'm just tightening them down a little because 9 foot-pounds, I mean, that's like 1/3 of a nugget dugger on a 1/4 inch impact. Kind of sucky. Yeah. So over here somewhere, but I can't reach that one without an extension, so it's going to be extension on, extension off for about a year. This is going to take forever. So I will bring you back after I have went around this thing and made a fool of myself because I can't reach it with a nugget dugger. I put just a little bit of grease on this shaft here for the, well, not the shaft, but the grease for the oil seal. The bearing surface, as it were, that rides on the oil seal. And then I want to ever so gently ease that into position so as not to foul up the oil seal. And I put that grease on there specifically, there it goes, to save that seal until the oil can get to it. It's the used seal. I didn't replace it because it wasn't leaking, but still great care must be exercised when recycling that seal that you have it well lubed. It didn't feel dry, it felt flexible, so I didn't see any reason not to reuse it. But by the same token, the last thing you want to do is put this all together just to replace that seal because you fouled it up. So a little grease goes a long way in solving that. All right, now we've got to tighten that little nut down. I'm not sure what size he is or if I have the appropriate socket. That ain't it. Probably this one. Nope. I'm going to have to hunt that socket down. I thought sure I had it right here. It's not this one. No, that's too small. Okay. And I'm going to find my little baby impact to put that on with. That's not really critical, that one. It just needs to be tight. And I could probably do it by hand with a rod through this to hold it tight. Put a rod like right through there just to give myself room for the socket. Yeah, I'll be back. I've just changed the fuel shutoff on this thing, and I'm really glad I did. It's got kind of a cheap Chinese copy of the correct fuel thing, but it'll work. Here's the one I took off. This filter's missing. That was for the main just on, and then the reserve has a little, well, used to be a filter there, both gone. That is the reason that I put these little, I don't know if you can see it, but it's one of them little red lawnmower filters. It's just got a little screen in it. It's the reason I put those on four-wheelers, even though they're supposed to have a tank filter. The chances of that tank filter being there or working kind of slim over time. They're just made out of plastic. They decay. And anyway, we're really getting closer to starting this thing. But I realized that I drained all the oil out of it in the beginning and have not put any oil in it. We're going to have to get a little more light on the subject and change out this oil filter. Got a nice high-quality Fram oil filter because this isn't the shuttle. You're not going to blow it up on this thing. And also, that was the only one Walmart had. So I'm going to open the garage door, get a little light in here, and I will be back. All right, so this oil filter, I got a hold of that a little bit ago, and it didn't budge. And it's still not budging. So what we're going to have to do here is we're going to have to get it with the pliers. I got a set of pliers made just for oil wrenches, or for oil filters. It's like a oil filter wrench that's adjustable. The issue with that thing is I don't know that I'm actually going to get a good hold on it with it, being it's kind of at an angle. But, oh yeah, it's moving. It's moving more. Ah, it's going to come off. Boy, I got lucky there because I thought I was going to end up with the major pliers on that, but no, it's going to come right out of there. All right, I've got it moving a little. Will it move by hand now? Yes. All right, so there's going to be what I would call a major oil mess, and I don't have anything I can put under there but the oil pan, which is completely under the four-wheeler, and my prediction is it's going to run backwards out the back or something and get in a place where I can't do a thing about it. So, yeah. Best case scenario, maybe a little bit of it goes where I want it. Be nice if it was empty, having drained the engine, but there ain't a chance of that. Oh no, there goes oil. Now once I get this spun off, oh, I hear it going in the oil container. We can hope that continues. So I get this spun off, I've got to get it upside down as quick as I can. Keep from pouring any more. And there she is. One delicious Suzuki. And here's a funny thing. This engine, I do believe, is a Suzuki engine. I don't know why Arctic Cat would use a Suzuki engine, but maybe it was cheaper to use theirs than create their own. Not really sure. Can't explain that. So we're going to need the Fram Extra Guard. Basically the exact same filter. If you're wondering, an Arctic Cat 400 automatic, 2003, I think. That's what it takes. Available at your local Walmart. Now, we're going to get a little bit of that oil from the old filter, and we're going to lube up this rubber. And we do that because we'd like to be able to take it off in the future. If you clean that up real good, and you should wipe it a little bit, and don't put some oil back on there. It's on there for life. You'll need dynamite to get it off. Okay. That cleaned up somewhat. This is a little bit lubricated, and right on she goes. Now, I just changed the oil in this not long before, but if you recall, pretty confident it was full of gasoline. That's not really what you want. And as a consequence, I don't have a lot of faith that the oil filter was okay after that. It's going to take me a little while to get that spun on. Obviously. Long threads. Getting closer. Get the rag. Preferably the least oily part. And the rag slips more than my hand. That's good. You want it tight. You don't want it so tight you can't remove it. And that's hand tight. I ain't putting a tool on it. It's good enough. Okay. We need to dump oil in this thing. That is done in this little hole here. That dipstick doodad that was out in my way basically the entire time. It's supposed to take 2 1/3 quarts or so. Gonna need a funnel. Great. I don't really see the funnel I need. Let me look. Could be it's there and I'm just missing it. Yeah. That's exactly what's going on. There it is. All right, funnel. I've got 3 full quarts, but I got a part of a quart I'd like to use. It's the same 4-stroke, 1040, ATV, UTV, wet clutch. Okay, it's all the same thing. They've changed the jug slightly. But it's basically the same thing. All right. They're both Valvoline, both 1040, ATV, UTV, both wet clutch rated, but they've changed the design. No big deal. Just drop that funnel in there, and it should stay pretty good. I'm going to put in 2 full quarts first, because I know it takes that. And then it takes like a third, and this has a little less than a third. About a quarter. The lid's on there for life. There it come off. Just dump that bad boy right on in. Glug, glug, glug. Once it's down quite a ways, I'll just let go of it and I'll let it sit in the funnel and do its thing. All right. I'll move him out of the way. He's the piece of one. Stand it up or something. Try and get as much oil out as you can. Because just because it says a quart, don't mean you're going to get a quart out of the jug. Some of it always stays behind. But the engine people, I believe they mean it when they say 2 quarts and some change in some precise measurement. As a consequence, there'll be times if you don't let them drain a little bit, you'll be just a little bit short. And you're like, where'd that oil go? What's still in the jug? It's clingy. We had a torrential downpour last night. I don't know. I slept through it, but my wife was telling me all about this morning, and she gets freaked out when the thunder rolls. Well, that's 2 whole quarts about in. Stand that up and let it drain a while. If it'll stand, there we go. Just let him stand there a bit. My rag. I think I'm considering pulling the spark plug so that it turns easy and cranking it a little and getting the oil through the system and then finishing filling the oil, because that's what you're going to do anyway, although normally you would run it. But either way, you're doing it twice. I'm kind of thinking I might want to do it twice before I put it all back together. I don't know. Got the oil in now. That's 2 quarts. Now, technically, that's enough to be safe to run it. It should be on the stick now. Might not be much on the stick, but it should be on the stick. I'm going to see where we're at. Get the funnel loose. Okay, just set that on this greasy mat, because can't make that worse if I tried. Let me get the little dipstick here, see what we're at. That was 2 quarts. I thread that little dipstick in. And remember, we don't have any oil in that filter or in any of the passages and places oil would normally be. To be honest, I don't see a thing on that stick. I don't have a river running under it, do I? It ain't coming out as fast as I put it in, is it? Be an ideal time to check the seal. Make sure I didn't make any flub ups there. That's dry. Okay. Insofar as oil on the stick goes, I think we got nothing. I think it's going to need a lot more. Yeah, we're putting more in. I see just a tiny taste on the very end of the stick. So what we're going to do, I've got another full one. I think I'm going to dump this little partial one in just to get rid of it as it's older. Not that I think oil expires that quick. 20 years maybe. I don't know that it expires then. I've had oil a lot older than that I've used worked fine. As long as it's sealed up, doesn't evaporate. I'm not sure motor oil actually goes bad. Now, I couldn't speak for the synthetic and the newer stuff, but the old oils, I had old cans of Quaker State and Pennzoil that were in paper cans. You had to punch with one of them little paper, I mean, it had metal ends, but it was a paper can. Had to punch with a little can opener that punches a hole like you would for grapefruit juice or something in a can. And I was just using it in push motors and stuff. It wasn't that oil. I mean, oil that old was so bad at the time compared to modern oil that it was bad to begin with. The brand new, it was, I don't think it was any different 20 years old than it was brand new when I used it, but I didn't keep it in there long. I'd only use that for about a season. Oils today last just a little bit longer than that. But then there was non-detergent oil. I don't know if anybody here remembers non-detergent oil. That's tough. If you had one that was smoking like a freight train and the piston's so loose they were swapping cylinders every now and then, you'd get a little power. Yeah, those. Then sure, use some non-detergent. Clog it up a little bit. Maybe hold together long enough you could get it home. Or if you had one that was burning it as fast as you put it in, didn't matter if it's detergent oil or not really, because it was going to be sludge in the bottom of the pan anyway, almost immediately. But as a general rule, non-detergent oil is worthless. But back then, that's what there was. Detergent and oil was kind of a new thing there after some point. And they still sold non-detergent oil, and you have to ask yourself why. All right, now we got lots of oil on the stick. Let's see, I'm almost dead on it, which doesn't help me a bit because once I run it, it'll be low. Let's see where I'm at. That, there you can see the oil on the back side. That is almost perfect. It's just a little short of being completely full on the safe thing. It is perfect insofar as safety. That's where you could stop. But once I run this, it'll go down, so I'm going to put some more in it. But I think I'm going to put some more in it after I turn it over a little bit and get that oil circulated, because right now it's not. So let me find the key for this thing, and we'll turn it on and give it a little crank. Then we'll come back to checking the oil. I'm not going to put gas in it yet, and the tank is empty. I'm hoping there ain't enough in it to start. So basically what's going to happen is nothing. I'm just going to crank it. I'd like to pull that spark plug out. But if memory serves, it's kind of a dingbat size that is tough to come by. Yeah, I'm going to leave it in. All right, I'll be back. Okay, well, let's see what happens. I've connected the battery back up. Give it some more. What is that puffing at me? Oh, I got the cover off the you know, I've removed the dipstick. I feel it puffing air. All right. Should be enough. Oh. See what we got for oil here. Stupid cross-threading cap. This thing, you gotta be ever so gentle putting it back in, because if it gets a chance, it'll cross-thread every time. Which is funny, because it looks like it's got nice threads. It's just plastic screwing into metal, maybe? I don't know. Oh, yeah, the oils went down. Good. Just went down enough I can finish filling it up. That surely got it. Okay. I'm going to put a little more oil in this, and then we'll be back. All right, we're going to be looking in on the spark on this, I think, first. I was going to try and start it, but this takes a plug that's got threads instead of the little nipple, so I took the little nipple off of spark plug. Just any old spark plug will do. Stick that in there. lay it on metal somehow. Hopefully where I can see. I'm not sure you can see. I'm not sure you could see even with the lights. Well, if I turned them way down. But I'll know in a second. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Tons of spark. Okay, so that was probably the problem. All right. Plug that back in. We're ready to put some gasoline in this and give it the old college try for a start. Let me get all the tools off of this because you probably can't see it, but I got a tool mess just everywhere. And I might want to put the plastics back on since the only problem it really had was spark, and I now have spark and I expect to keep it. I believe we're going to button this thing up and then we're going to fire it up or try to. So I shall return after I have reassembled this and taken the 85 million tools off of it. All right, we're going to need to dump a little gas in her. She's bone dry. I expect the carburetor is bone dry as well. Pretty close to it, if not. So it may take a little cranking to get this thing to light. But it's going to definitely take gasoline. I'm going to dump quite a bit in it, too. That's probably a gallon or a gallon and a half. That ought to be enough. Always want to make sure you got enough to get above the pickup tube. You're sucking air and gas. All right, set that aside. Turn the gas on. The gas is on. Then we wait. It'll be a little bit. See if it's hemorrhaging anywhere. Not really seeing any of that. You do have to give it a little while for the gas to get down there, though. It does take a minute. Especially when she's bone dry. All right, we're going to try it without the choke first. Enriching her, not choke, I guess. That's a good sign. That was it. Just lost spark. And it lost that spark over a very stupid reason. Why did it lose spark? Because the magnets got loose. It didn't even come out. They were still technically magneting. But that spacing is critical. The space between those magnets so that it gets a nice even pulse, boom, 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 makes all the difference. When they're all bunched up on one end and it's like one big ripply pulse, it just can't make enough steam to fire off the, I guess it's like a capacitive discharge, whatever. It cannot make enough spark to do any engine. And what had happened was it just barely had enough spark to run the first time I ran it. And then after I ran it, because I ripped it pretty good, I was running around out in that field. I come back and shut it off, and I imagine those magnets realigned themselves just a little bit, and then it wouldn't go again. The time before that, I thought the battery wasn't hot enough, of all things. I put a new battery in it, and that did it. It started. I'm not sure how that mattered or if it was complete coincidence, but I never realized that those magnets could come loose from that flywheel, and the internet saved me. It's the thing that told me that. So if you've got a 400 Arctic Cat, this one's a 2003, I'm going to say. And it's the automatic, it's the CVT one. But if you've got a 400 Arctic Cat that just suddenly no spark, and there's a Suzuki with the same ridiculous oversized engine in it, that's the possible culprit. Look yours up and see. The internet will be full of, oh yeah, the magnets fell off. After the fourth or fifth post like that, I realized that might be the case. And I really questioned myself when I pulled it out and the magnets didn't move. But it was all because of that surface tension for the oil, with the oil between the perfectly fitting epoxy and the machine surface of that flywheel. Those magnets didn't budge until I scooted them around the flywheel. When I pulled on them and nothing happened, but when I pushed on them to the side, they scooted, and I knew immediately, oh, I was right and wrong at the same time. I was right that the magnets were screwed up, and I was wrong to question it. So that was it. This new flywheel shouldn't have that problem with that sheet of metal pressed in there, forcing those magnets against the flywheel. That should pretty well solve that for the lifetime of this thing. But anyway, guys, I believe we're going to wrap it up. I filled up the oil a little bit ago and rechecked it, and it's good and full now. So all I got to do with this thing is take it out and ride it. I'm going to ride it for a day or two before I put it back up for sale to be absolutely sure. But I'm 99.9% sure she's whipped. I want to thank you guys for watching. Like and subscribe if you like the video. And tune in again for more redneck repairs.